Hi, everyone. I would love to welcome you to our event. This one was a long time in the making, so I'm really excited to be here with you all. This is our My Journey Plus live Q&A. So I wanted to give you guys some backstory on who I am, how Rare and Bossy started. What was, I know everyone's like, what happened? You have this crazy backstory. So I'm giving you all the good insights, all the juicy details. So, all right, let's get started. And if you have any questions, we can do questions at the end. So you can feel free to jump in. I'll probably talk for about, I'm going to put my little timer on. This is my ADHD timer, which is the most amazing thing. You need to buy it on Amazon, and it keeps you on track for how long you're going to speak or do anything. So that's what I have set up over here. So if I look to the side, that's what I'm looking at to make sure I'm not talking too long. So I just want to jump in and talk about how everything started, how all of this came to be, like where this vision of starting this community on school started. Like, what was that? What brought it up for me, and what is my history, so that you guys really get to know me and feel comfortable with me, ask me questions. I want you to feel really comfortable in this community, and I want to make it a safe space. This is our tribe. This is our vibe. We get to do this exactly how we want it, and I want this to be not only just a safe space, but a respectful space. People are going to share vulnerable things here, and so I want us all to feel comfortable doing that and having that protective space. So without further ado, so November, it is, what is it? It's like April. It's April. I'm so bad with dates. So it's April right now for those who are going to watch the replay. But in November of 2024 is when I realized I needed to pivot in my entrepreneurial journey. 7 months prior to November and realizing I needed to shut down my jewelry boutique, I went into labor with my son, and I was so excited, but he came early. He came 5 weeks early. So when he was born, he was only 4 pounds and 1 ounce. So really little thing. And it was an emergency C-section. And so I went in, and I thought I was going in just to get fluids. I just wasn't feeling good, and I was feeling little contractions, but I thought it was like Braxton Hicks, right? I was like, it's 5 weeks early, he's not coming. It's just, I'm feeling something, so let's go in, So I went into the hospital, and I remember the nurse putting this band over my stomach to see if I was actually having contractions. And she said, "Oh, you actually are having contractions." And I said, "Oh, really? Like the baby could come today?" And so the doctor came in, and she said, we're hoping he doesn't come today because he'll be so little, and we want his lungs to develop a little bit more. So we were just like hoping, it would kind of go away. So they were going to keep me overnight. So they kept me. And there was this lapse of time, about 23 hours, that I don't remember. And I'll tell you about that later. But I was at the hospital for 23 hours. And then I was going back and forth to the restroom because they had me on fluids. And I was going back and forth. And the final time I went to the restroom, it was a lot of fluid. And I was like, I think my water just broke. And at that time, the doctor was coming in, and she said, and she had went home and come back because I was there for like so long. And she said, I think I'm just going to discharge you. You're staying you're still at 1 centimeter. They had checked me when I first got there, and I was 1 centimeter dilated. And I was still at 1 centimeter almost a day later. And so they said, okay, we're probably going to just send you home, and you're going to just have to wait out, until the baby comes. And I was thinking in my head, like, these contractions hurt. I was like, these contractions are really strong, even though it was only 1 centimeter. I was like, how am I going to last 5 weeks? And so, but right before then, I had went to the restroom right before she came in, and I said, but I think my water broke. So can you like check me again? And she checked me, and I remember her face. Like I will never forget her face, because I'm like, of course, laying on the bed with my legs up, and she's checking me. And she pops up and she goes, oh my God, you're 7 centimeters. What do you want to do? And that's like the funniest question, right? Like, what do you want to do? And she's the doctor, right? But pretty much what she was asking me was, do you want to have a C-section or do you want to give birth? Because we had talked through me personally preferring a C-section due to like past traumas. And so that was my preference going in. But we just decided we'll go along, see how the birth progresses, and then we would decide then. And so she was asking, oh my goodness, like it's go time. You need to decide right now. And I remember looking at my husband, Lorenzo, and just looking at him saying like, what should we do? And I just went C-section, and he said, okay. And that was it. And literally the doctor ran out of the room. She's the sweetest person, and I love her very much. She ran out of the room and just started yelling down the hall. And I remember thinking like, oh, baby's coming right now. And I had been texting my mom this whole time. And so I was just keeping her up to date, because she was supposed to fly in to be with me for the labor. But I was coming so early that she didn't make it. So I was texting her, and I went to text her and say, oh, baby's coming right now. I'm going in for emergency C-section. And I remember I couldn't read my phone. And I had been texting her this whole time, but I couldn't read it. And so I just thought it was because I was having really bad contractions. I had been there for 23 hours. I was on morphine because they were trying, like I was in so much pain. And so I didn't think anything of it. So I gave it to my husband, my phone to my husband. I said, text my mom, I can't see the phone. And within minutes of that, within 15 minutes, they literally had wheeled me out of my room into the OR. I was completely hooked up. They gave me my epidural right then. So like they were so quick. I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, like everything's happening. I was literally like surrounded by nurses and doctors within seconds, and they were wheeling me out the room. And I actually have this video that I want to share on Instagram of me just being, and my husband was like recording it, and I'm just being wheeled to this room, and he had to wait outside before he could come into the OR. And I remember just, he's like, bye, honey, like you're gonna do great. And I remember looking back like, okay. Like I don't even know what's happening, and you can see my face. I just look so confused. And so the next thing I remember, I'm like laying on the table, and there's like this big blue shield in front of me. And I'm laying there, and they're like, well, what music do you want to play? And I'm like, Beyonce. Because I was like, I need some Beyonce power right now. I need some Beyonce power. So Langston was literally born to Beyonce, like in the OR, like pumping. And I'm like laying there and can't move. You know, they have my wrist tied down, and all of the anesthesiologist is on this side, Lorenzo's on this side, and they're telling me what's happening. And then the doctor's talking to me from over the shield. And she's like, okay, we're going to get started. And I'm like, okay, like I'm just laying here. And I remember thinking like the doctor said that my baby's lungs weren't developed enough. And so I was just waiting to hear him cry. And so we were just quiet, and we're listening to Beyonce. And I remember her saying, baby's out. And I didn't hear anything. It was quiet. It was quiet. And it was really, it was hard. I don't know how to explain that emotion when you heard that your baby came out, but you don't hear any sound. And you're just waiting, and you're just like, okay, breathe. okay, breathe. You can breathe. You can breathe. Like, you can do it. Like, and you're like mentally talking to this baby that you've had in your stomach and you've been talking to and singing to and everything. And you're just like, you can do this. You can do this. You can breathe. You know, you can come out. And I'm just laying there. And there was a team already in the OR waiting for the baby. So they had the team for me, and then they had the team waiting for the baby. And I remember just saying to my husband, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And he said, the team is working on the baby. The team is there with the baby. They're working on the baby. And I said, okay, what's happening? What's happening? And I just kept asking what's happening because it was just so quiet. It just got so quiet. And then all of a sudden, it got even quieter. And I was like, what just happened? Like, where's my baby? And they had the team with my baby couldn't resuscitate him. So he had come out and couldn't breathe. And so they had rushed him out of the OR to the NICU to resuscitate him. And so within 20 minutes of him being alive, he had to be intubated so that he could breathe. Thankfully, he, as soon as he was intubated, he like started breathing and was active, right? But I didn't know that, right? So I'm still in the OR. I'm still hooked up. And I'm just like, where's my baby? And everyone's saying, don't worry, they got the baby, your baby's okay. And then I fell asleep. I remember them pulling on my stomach, saying that they're going to put me back together. And I remember just being really sad. And I fell asleep. Something in, you know, whatever medicines, and they said that's really normal, you know, because you have so much, so many drugs going through you to keep you numb and everything. So it's normal to fall asleep or be drowsy during a C-section. And so sometime later, I woke up in the mother-baby unit. When I woke up, I opened my eyes and I looked around, and it looked like I was in a hallway. Everything was so dark, like think like dark chocolate. It was just brown and dark. And I saw these black shadows moving like this, like kind of like, it reminded me, this is the weirdest memory, but if anyone has watched the movie Flubber, from way back in the day, it was like the little, it was like a jello little green guy. I forget what, it was like a scientist experiment, and they actually made a mistake, and they made this little green flubber human that like danced around and like, if you look at that, you're gonna laugh. But that's literally what it felt like to me, like this little flubber, like this little movements around in black. You know, and I was like, what is this jelly type movement in my vision? And I remember hearing my husband to my right, and he said, hey, how are you doing? And I said, I can't see. And before he could respond, my doctor came up, and she said, hey, how are you doing? Want to check in with you. Just check in and see how you're doing. And I remember saying, Dr. Berkeley, I can't see you. And she said, tell me more. What do you mean? Tell me more. And I know she went into asking me lots of questions, right? But I don't remember them. It turned out that I got a rare condition called disseminated intravascular coagulation. DIC, DIC. It was a DIC. That is what I officially say. I was like, yes, that name is perfect for exactly what it was. And so what happens is it can be triggered in labor, and it can be triggered in surgeries and different things. But when it happens with mothers in labor, your body gets triggered, and there's a billion reasons why it can. And your body thinks you're bleeding out, right? So your body thinks you're bleeding out. And so it tries to save you by making blood clots so that you keep some blood, But the problem is you're not bleeding out. And your entire body from head to toe fills up with blood clots. Like billions, billions, millions of blood clots all through your body. And if you just think about, when someone says, oh my goodness, I have a blood clot, they like get rushed into surgery right away. It's like a big deal. I had tons of blood clots going through my entire body. And it was just there were so many times when I think about going through this, and if this specific thing didn't happen, or this person wasn't there, I would have died. Statistically, when you look at the statistics, I shouldn't be here. Only 0.03% of women experience what I experienced in the United States. Only 3.5% in the world. And my case is the worst case ever documented in US history. I'm going to be in a medical journal this year. And there's no doctor I had, and I had a lot of doctors. And there's no doctor that had ever actually seen a case like mine. So my condition is that rare that they could look it up and they diagnosed me because I went blind. So me going blind is the reason I survived. So I'm really grateful. People say, why are you so happy? Why are you still so motivated? Like, you went blind. You went into labor and woke up blind. I was 100% blind the second time I woke up. The first time I had like whatever that 2% was, dark brown and blobs, which were humans moving around me, my nurses. But when I woke up the next time, I was 100% blind, probably for about 48 hours. And I was also having strokes, which they didn't know, because the blood clots went into my eye first, and they went through my retina, which is the back of your eye, and they clogged up different areas of my eye. So technically what a stroke is, in the most basic of terms, is it stops the blood. Like there's no blood flow is what a stroke is. And there were all these spaces, and you can see it on my retinal scan, all these white spaces where blood was supposed to be flowing through my eyes that are just gone. They're just dead spaces in my eye. And then the blood clots then went through my eye stem up into my brain and clogged up 5 different areas of my brain. Big spaces, like like you think, okay, maybe little blood clots. No, they were not little. They were really big. And then when they showed me my brain scans, I was just like, oh my God, like what just happened? But there's 5 areas in my brain that's just dead. They're just dead white spaces. And all of my head was inflamed. They couldn't figure out how bad my strokes were, because when they looked at my brain scans, my MRIs, which I wasn't able to get for over 24 hours, there's so much of my brain that was just white. So it was swollen. And then my eyes swole out of my sockets. They were huge. They weren't sure if they'd go down, if they'd shrink. They had never seen it before. So they had no idea what was going to happen. They were all hopeful and doing everything they could, but they literally couldn't find a case to learn from. They just had to look at all my symptoms and medically guess, essentially, how to save my life. And they did. They did, and I'm extremely grateful. But it was really hard. It was really hard. The first time I met my son was 24 hours later. And I couldn't see him. I couldn't see him. And so they put this baby in my arms and they said, "Can you hold him?" And I said, "Yes." They had me in a wheelchair because we were about to be medevaced off the island. He was born in Guam. And so the Guam hospital didn't have enough amenities for our situation. And so they flew in 2 teams of doctors, 6 doctors each. So my son got 6 doctors and I had 6 doctors. They flew them in from Japan and they arrived in Guam and they took us and got us onto an airplane and flew us to Hawaii to a bigger hospital. And so when I met my son, we were in the middle of that transition. And because I couldn't see, I felt like we were in this hallway. I felt like we were in this hallway where all of a sudden we just stopped. And this woman just said, "Do you want to hold your baby?" And I had no idea that we were going to do that. I was on so much medicine. I was on morphine and oxycodone, and then they had another medicine that was trying to kill the blood clots, to thin my blood so that the blood clots, would go away. And I just touched him, like I just wanted to feel him. I couldn't see him, but I wanted to see, what did his nose feel like? What did his ears feel like? Like, was his head, did he have hair? And I remember the first thing I felt was his toes and his fingers. And I said, "Oh my gosh, you have long fingers." My son has long fingers. And I remember thinking that, and there's a video of me that I want to share as well, me seeing him for the first time and just touching him. And I said that to him. I said, "Look at your fingers." And when I spoke, that was actually the first time my son opened his eyes, which I found out later. He was, active and alert, but he never opened his eyes for 24 hours until he heard my voice, because he started looking for me. And I just thought that was so sweet. And so going from there, we were on this airplane and we were medevaced. And while we were on the airplane, I lost blood. And so they had to give me a blood transplant. And so I'm like in the air, and I remember, they had me on the gurney, and they literally, this airplane was made for taking people and transporting people who were sick. And they like literally, it was like, and my gurney was like strapped into the airplane. Like I was like on, and then my team of doctors literally were sitting right around me, like almost in a circle. And I remember even if I moved, one of them popped up and was like, "What do you need? What do you need?" And my son was somewhere else in the plane, so I didn't get to see him or know what was happening. I could ask, but I didn't know. I was told later that my daughter came over to talk to me. She was medevaced with us. My husband was literally told, "Okay, there's 2 teams of doctors on their way. They're going to be here in 4 hours. So you need to get everything ready to be medevaced. Go get your daughter, go get suitcases, and be back in 4 hours." So he had to go do all of that and get back. And so we're on the airplane, and my daughter, I was told later, she came over to talk to me, to check on me, to see how I was doing. And the one thing about my daughter is she's adopted, right? She's 13, and she was adopted at 10. And so we were her first set of stability and security. We were her first set of like, "Oh, I'm going to be okay." And they say it takes 10 years, the amount of years that the child experienced trauma, for the trauma to go away. And not ever go away, but for the brain to transition into safety. So if she was in trauma for 10 years, she wouldn't actually relieve that survival brain until she's about 20. So here I am, her first stable mom, and I'm dying. And she's seeing me. And my heart was just so broken for her because I'm like trying to stay strong for her. But I was so out of it and had no idea what was really happening. So we get to Hawaii and I land. And within 20 minutes, I am not kidding you, within 20 minutes, I was interviewed by 8 doctors. They had every team of doctor on my case. And I had the head of every department. So not just a doctor in the department, I had the head of OBGYN, the head of surgery. I had the head of, I can't even remember them all. Everything, like the eyes, there were so many doctors just checking on me. So anyway, just to wrap up, I could talk about this story and all the things that happened for hours, but I was discharged 2 weeks later. My son was discharged a month later. That's my little alarm going off, so I already went over my time. So I'll wrap it up. But he was in the NICU longer than I was, and it was hard because he couldn't feed. He was so little, he couldn't eat. But I remember when he was discharged, and we were taking him home for the first time, which was to a hotel room because we had to stay in Hawaii. And he was just this little thing, and I was blind. And I was like, I'm taking home a baby. And I had maybe 10 to 20% of my sight. And I had a walking stick. And my husband had to help me do everything. I couldn't see the toilet seat, so he had to sit me down. I couldn't brush my teeth because I couldn't see the toothpaste because it was all white. White was the hardest for me to see. And so it was the toothpaste I couldn't see. Then I could the container, and then I couldn't see the toothpaste come out. And then I couldn't see the bristles because they were also white. So I couldn't get it on, I could never get the toothpaste on the toothbrush. So he'd have to do that for me. And I remember the first time I tried to do my hair, he said, babe, you look great. And I remember I did a reel later for Mother's Day. And I looked back at that when I finally could see a little bit, and I was like, I cannot believe you let me leave the house with that crazy hairstyle that I couldn't see. And you can look back at it. It's on my Instagram. And my hair is like this crazy bundle, and it's for Mother's Day. And I was like just telling everybody, happy Mother's Day, because it was a month later, and I had disappeared. No one heard from me. I couldn't see my phone, so I couldn't contact anyone. And that was really scary in the hospital too, because I had to stay overnight by myself. But I had no way to contact anyone or speak to anyone. But moving forward, we got home. We were released. I was alive. He was alive. And we had magical doctors. We come home and we return to Guam. And my mom flies in right away, and my brother flies in, and they're just there and they're helping. And it's really great because everything was new. I couldn't see my house, and it was just, everything was new. So I'm going through the next couple months, slowly regaining my sight. At this point, I have about 60%. If I had to measure it, which is really hard to do because the pockets in my eyes are dead. So, for example, if I look at a word, I can't see an entire letter. So it's really hard for me to read. It's like puzzle pieces. So I'm always mentally putting the picture together. Even when I look at someone's face, I can't see their whole face because half pieces of their face are missing. So it's hard, right? This is hard. And I am working every day to get better. So 7 months later, I'm still an entrepreneur at heart, right? So I'm like, I need to get my life back. And my friends were like, who are you? Like 7 months later, after you went blind and had 5 strokes and you're trying to start your business back up, like what what are you doing? Like, go rest. And for me, that was just not my personality. Like, I didn't want to rest. I needed to feel more like myself again. I felt like I just lost everything. And then 7 months hit, and it was the first time I allowed myself to go into my boutique, because I wouldn't allow myself to go in there because I knew I wouldn't be able to see. But I started to feel like my eyesight was plateauing. So I thought, okay, let me go in there and just see if I can put together a piece of jewelry. And I did. One earring. It took me a really long time. A lot of lights. But I couldn't see for about 2 hours afterwards. My sight went dark and my eyes were burning. They were burning so bad. And I knew instantly that my career of making jewelry was over. Like, it wasn't something that I had to think about. It was like this instantaneous knowledge that, oh, I'm done. Like, this, I can't do this anymore, because the strain was so hard that I knew that it wasn't possible. Like, I think through things really quickly. I struggled with that as a young child, not letting go of things. And so I worked really hard on it, of just being able to accept reality as soon as it comes. And I remember when I woke up for the first time and realized I was blind. It wasn't when I told the doctor I couldn't see her, because I was on so many meds, I didn't understand what was happening. It was when I got to the hospital and I was being interviewed by the last doctor. And he said, he was asking me, what do I see? And I was telling him what I saw. And he was trying to just be hopeful. So he kept talking to me. And I said, well, is that what's there? You know, I said, excuse me. Am I seeing what's right? What are you seeing? And when he told me, it was the complete opposite of what I was seeing. And I remember the only thing I said was, oh boy. I just said that, oh boy. And that's literally what I said. And it just hit me. I was like, I'm blind. I cannot see. And in that moment, I knew that it was on purpose. There wasn't a moment when I wanted to just be sad and pity. There was an immediate moment, an immediate understanding that this happened for a real reason. And even though I didn't know it yet, it felt very purposed. And so in that same respect, when I realized I couldn't do the jewelry, I knew right away that that was part of the pivot. That was part of what was changing in my life. And so within the next 2 months, I had to figure out a new business. And I had heard of school and heard of the platform. And I had already actually planned on making a community for my jewelry tribe, my tribe of beautiful jewelry lovers. They were just the most amazing, beautiful women that I had come to know and talk to. And they made me feel beautiful because they felt beautiful in my jewelry. And so I wanted to create a space where I could actually really talk to them and see them. It wasn't like on Instagram where you just, can like and click and leave comments. School was a community where we could get on Zooms together, where we could talk about real things. We could talk about our confidence. We could talk about what makes us feel better. I could share style tips to make women really feel good on the inside and out. And that's what I wanted to do. But when I realized I couldn't do jewelry anymore, I realized I still wanted that feeling of a tribe. I still wanted to help women. I really have this thing for women. I just really feel like we're the most beautiful creatures in the world, the most powerful creatures in the world. Like, we create life. And without us, the world wouldn't be what it is. We wouldn't be, who we are. And so I think we're really powerful. And so I love working with women. And so I knew I wanted to work with women. And as I delved deeper, like into what niche do I want, what style of women, and it was really hard because I thought, oh, all the women in my tribe now won't fit into this new journey I was going on. And that was really hard for me. But I decided to do with women entrepreneurs and mom entrepreneurs because I was a mom and I was going through this experience. And I had just had this baby and I had a newborn that I was trying to raise with my 13-year-old daughter who's adopted and still trying to help her with her confidence. And I wanted to be around women going through the same era and who want to transform their life for themselves, for their children, for their families. And so I saw this platform. And at first I thought, let me apply all the things that I learned from working in my jewelry business, being online, email marketing, social media marketing. Let me teach women that so they can rise in their business. But then I realized quickly that it didn't feel right, like what I really wanted to do. And what I really wanted to do was help women create their own tribe. Because how powerful would it be to have a tribe of tribes where there's groups upon groups upon groups of people who just feel like they have a space to be themselves, like they have a space to grow and heal and have fun and whatever you could dream of, you could create this community and you could monetize it in a way that you could give to your family and you could have the time to spend with your kids. And I just remember when I was doing jewelry, it was so much work. It was so much work, all the inventory, keeping up with everything, shipping and all these details. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a business online. It takes out all of that work and you get to just help people. You get to choose what you want your community to be about. And you get to create this beautiful space where all these people can come together from all over the world and share. And I just thought that was so beautiful that I am dedicating myself to mastering the platform. I'm like, I have the goal of helping 5,000 moms, because if you're going to do it, why do it small? We're like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it, and it's going to be like a whole movement, right? So I want to help 5,000 moms make their own community and make $5,000 a month in recurring revenue. I have seen it done. I've done all the research. I have studied other communities. I have looked at the way things are set up. I have studied the owner of this entire platform, and I am in love with him and the way he sets up businesses, his books. I've read all his books. I follow him on his social media, just his mindset, his attention to detail, his authenticity with the platform. He literally just says, oh, that didn't work, so I'm taking this away and I'm adding this for you guys so you can win. And I love that. And so I want to create this community where women feel safe to grow and to create their own tribes, and we can all bring home money for us. Like that's something that some people don't talk about with confidence. Having the ability to take care of your family, take care of yourself is a part of confidence, and having that ability to do that gives you power. It gives you strength. And money doesn't make you happy, but it really does relieve a lot of stressors and it sets you up for success. So this isn't just about money. This is about building tribes. This is about helping people. When you're an entrepreneur, the goal is to help someone, to solve somebody else's problem. And I know in this day and age, when there's so many people losing their jobs, when people are really struggling, that there are moms who need this. And an extra $60,000 a year could change their life. And so I am working hard to make a blueprint that has a step-by-step that you can go through that is powered by AI, meaning that I weave in ChatGPT prompts so that it's easier for you to create the content you need, to create the ideas you need, to figure out, like ChatGPT is literally has the brain of Einstein, if you think about it. Like if you think about it, it has the IQ of Einstein. So if you have access to Einstein, ask it some questions. Ask it some questions and help your make things simple. You don't have to figure everything out. You literally have this assistant that can help you out. And so going through everything I went through in this past year, it gave me hope again. I have to have a business that's online because I have to have really big screens. I have to be able to see. And I'm actually saving up for a really big screen that is as big as a TV, a 65-inch screen monitor. And that sounds so big, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to read again. I'm hoping that I'll be able to read again because it will be big enough for me to see. Right now, I'm using technology that reads to me and helps me reply. And it takes really long. And so I'm hoping that as I grow and as our communities grow and as we grow together, we can all change our lives and help our children and spend time with our children and not have to be so stressed. I remember, like, I want to save my sleep time. I want my sanity, and I want my story time with my babies. I want all of that, and I deserve it. And you do too. You do too. And together we can build something absolutely beautiful that can help change your life and your lifestyle. And so that's how Rare and Bossy came to be. And the last thing I do want to share before I end this is the name. Some people ask me, how did you come up with the name Rare and Bossy? So when I was being discharged from the hospital, the doctor, my main doctor, who was an OBGYN in Hawaii, and he came in on the last day and he said, "You're getting discharged today." He said, "And I just wanted to stop in and I wanted to just talk to you. And I wanted just to say how honored I've been to help you and to be on your case." And he said, "I really want to share this with you." He said, "I don't use the word rare often." He said, and he's very technical, right? So he said, in this specific dictionary that I can't remember, he said, the word rare is defined as one out of some huge number that he said. He said, that's why I never use the word rare. He said, but you're rare. And I remember as soon as he said that, it came full circle to me about how beautiful and unique we all are. And we're all rare, right? Like if you think about it, there's 8 billion people on this planet right now. And there's only one of us. And that's rare. Who we are, what we bring to the table, our dreams, our gifts, our opportunities, our lifestyle, our journey is only ours. And we get to share that in whichever way we want to. And so when I was finding a name for this business, I wanted it to be rare. I wanted women to know that their gifts and their skills and their talents, their ideas, their passions that they bring to the table, they're rare, which means you are worthy of being shared to the world. And it's valuable. You're valuable. And so rare and then bossy. I don't know about you, but I was called bossy all the time when I was a little girl. And it always took on this bad idea, bossy, being mean. And I remember as an adult thinking about that because it really hurt my feelings when I was young. You know, someone called me bossy and I used to say, yep, I'm bossy. I don't know how my mom raised me. I was a lot. But I remember later in life thinking, what if when I was raised, instead of someone calling me bossy, someone calling me a boss, an entrepreneurial spirit, someone told me that I could take charge. Someone told me that I had a mindset of a queen, someone who could run empires, someone who could create things, someone who was powerful, that my voice was powerful. The fact that I had ideas and wasn't afraid to speak my mind was powerful. What if someone told me that instead of telling me I was bossy and to go sit in a corner? And so I use that as a way of saying, yes, we are bossy, and we're bossy in the best way. We're bosses. We're women entrepreneurs. We're mother entrepreneurs. And we run our life and we have control of it. So yes, we're rare. We're unique. We're perfect in our imperfections. And we're bossy because we run our life the way we want. We speak up for ourselves. We do what we want. And we're powerful. And we deserve to be. So I hope you all enjoyed my sharing of my story. And I want to keep it open to questions. Does anyone have any questions? So since you all don't have any questions, I just want to say thank you for coming. I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. Thank you for letting me be vulnerable and share my story. I plan to share a lot more so that you guys can really hear all the gushy parts. And I just really am honored to be here, and I'm thank you for allowing me to share my gifts and my passions with you guys in this hope that we are all able to uplift each other and get to another place in our life. So I love you guys. I hope you have a beautiful day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.